In this video, I will explore the question of why whales beach themselves from the perspective of Germanische Heilkunde. Germanische Heilkunde divides the brain into 4 areas: the brainstem, the cerebellum, the cerebral medulla, and the cerebral cortex. If the individual has at least one conflict on each side of the brain in one of these parts of the brain, Dr. Hamer speaks of a constellation. These constellations cause certain behavioral abnormalities. The temporal and local disorientation is due to a special constellation of the brainstem, namely the renal collecting ducts. Temporally and spatially confused individuals must have at least one conflict in the right brainstem hemisphere and one in the left hemisphere in the Hamer focus for the renal collecting ducts. As always, the theory first. In the kidney, there are tissue types that have developed from the inner, middle, and outer germ layers. The kidney therefore has 3 different conflict contents with 3 different significant biological special programs, SBS for short. The SBS of the kidney collecting ducts belongs to the morsal conflicts, yellow group, controlled by the brainstem. The DHS, the Dirk-Hamer syndrome, is an event in which one had to flee, one's existence was at stake, or one felt abandoned. As with all SBS, the conflict takes place completely synchronously on the 3 levels of psyche, brain, and organ. The DHS starts the conflict active phase. In the psyche, the affected person has obsessive thoughts about their conflict. An illustrative example is a company owner who receives a demand for money that threatens his existence. In the brain, the active Hamer focus can be seen in the brainstem. The renal collecting ducts have 6 Hamer focus, 3 on the left and 3 on the right side. These ensure that cell proliferation occurs organically. This is also the biological meaning of the program, as the increased number of cells means that more fluid and protein can be retained. The affected person has less urine output. Water and protein are stored and retained for a rainy day. Symptoms include an increased creatinine level or weight gain due to water retention. The weight gain then has nothing to do with nutrition, but is caused by drinking. The phrase, "drink 2 liters of water a day," is therefore quite nonsensical with an active kidney collecting ducts, and can even be dangerous in syndrome. The amount of urine excretion depends on the amount of active Hamer foci. If all 3 of left or right kidneys are occupied, this is known as a kidney failure. No more urine is excreted and every drop of water is retained. If there is less left or right occupancy, this is referred to as reduced urine output, oliguria, etc. Dialysis patients therefore have existential conflicts going on. Why do I even bother so much? German television can explain the discoveries of the, in quotation marks, miracle healer and charlatan Hamer much better.
Nun ist ja der Reflex von uns, immer wenn man so eine Walstrandung sieht, klar, wir möchten diesen Tieren irgendwie helfen. Das wird dann meistens auch getan, aber Walrettung ist durchaus umstritten.
Wenn ein Wal strandet, ist das nicht sofort sein Todesurteil. Denn sein Körper ist für diesen Fall gewappnet. Automatisch startet das sinnvolle biologische Sonderprogramm SBS für Wassermangel und Existenzangst. Das SBS sorgt dafür, dass die Nieren mehr Wasser zurückhalten und der Wal mit seinen Reserven länger überleben kann. Das verschafft dem gestrandeten Tier wertvolle Zeit. Etwa 1 Stunde kann der Wal so durchhalten und auf die rettende Flut warten, die ihn zurück ins Meer spült.
For the symptoms described so far, the simplifying phrase, "the kidney collecting ducts are closing", has become common in Germanische Heilkunde. If the existential conflict is resolved, the affected person enters a healing phase. They are now psychologically liberated. A large order has come in and the money claim is now just a trifle. The company My Existence is saved. The protein in water that is no longer needed can be excreted immediately. The urine may foam due to the protein. The affected person is now constantly running to the toilet, even at night. Organically, there are always two possibilities. If the microbes are missing, the tumor encapsulates and persists. With microbes, the previously grown tumor is broken down in a tuberculous caseous process. At the end of the healing phase, the tumor is cleared away and the residual state is a cavity lined with calcium carbonate. If such a calcareous cavern crumbles, the calcium stones are transported with the urine towards the ureter and, depending on their size, become symptomatic in the ureter. In this case, we speak of renal gravel or calculous kidney stones. This SBS is therefore a second way of getting kidney stones. The first was crystalline kidney stones. I had explained them in the Luther video. At the end of the healing phase, everything will be fine again after a single proper run. A small suggestion. Try to imagine with the last video what happens to the renal collecting ducts when the SBS enters the hanging healing. As I said, if you know the SBS of one germ layer, you can often deduce the others. Now to the whales. Germanische Heilkunde applies equally to all living creatures. Thus, a renal collecting duct constellation also manifests itself in temporal and spatial disorientation confusion in whales. And so it can happen that a constellated whale becomes stranded on land. The increasing restriction of cetacean habitats by humans is a potential source of existential conflict due to DHS. It is known that whales communicate with each other via click sounds and sound waves. This whale song works over hundreds of miles. Ship traffic, seismic surveys, environmental pollution, military experiments, sonar, etc. are increasingly impairing the whale's communication and thus their existence. And if a whale now suffers an existential conflict on the left and on the right, it enters the brainstem constellation and can no longer find its way around. It is confused and becomes stranded, gets lost in rivers, etc. It becomes problematic when a leading cow or bull is constellated. Then the other whales follow the confused animal's instructions and also beach themselves. It's amazing how whale-like humans can be.
Oh, follow the gourd, the holy gourd of Jerusalem!
The gourd! Hold up the sandal as he has commanded us.
It is a shoe!
It's a sandal!
It is
a
shoe! Cast it away!
Put it on!
Clear off!
Take the shoes and follow him! Stop! Let us...
Well, that was a joke and is from my favorite comedy, The Life of Brian. Recent history in particular has shown that we humans don't just blindly follow instructions from the confused. For example, some of these confused people actually demanded during the Corona period that children should take off their mask at 35 degrees Celsius. Good thing no one went along with that. Irony ended. And honestly, what kind of suffering could the sentence, "No, I'm not going to do it myself," have prevented? Well, back to the confused whales. So now, every now and then, autopsies were carried out on stranded whales. And what did they die of? Let's take a look. Kidney failure. Hopefully we'll find our roots again. Thank you, Dr. Harmer.